What's up, everyone? Today we're here with Amour Elliot, who's a D1 at UCLA School of Dentistry. We're going to learn a little bit about his journey to dental school and his experience as a first year so far. Amour, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Can you just give us a brief description of your undergraduate journey, like where you're from originally and just where you went to school?
Oh, yeah. So I'm originally from North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I kind of moved around a lot growing up because of military. So yeah, eventually I ended up going to school in DC at Howard University, and I just graduated in May.
Awesome. So what got you interested in dentistry and like when was that in the timeline?
So at first I actually wanted to be a cardiologist. I used to always say, but then I think it was during my senior year in high school. I started doing some more research, and I kind of figured that I kind of decided that it wasn't for me, that pathway. And I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, but I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. So I did some more research and stumbled upon dentistry and began to learn about how much opportunity there is in the field of dentistry. And so, I just love how much autonomy you have as a practitioner. You can start your own practice. You could also work, do like your residencies in a hospital. You can specialize, become an orthodontist and oral surgeon. And there's just so many different possibilities out there for that. So I really did love that aspect of it. And from there, it was over. So yeah.
Awesome. So you said senior year of college, right? So did you take a
Oh, of
gap
high
year?
school.
Oh,
Sorry,
high
of high
school.
school.
Okay, high
Yeah.
school. Excuse me. Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Did
that's
you
when I
take a
kind of
gap year by
realized.
any chance or no?
Oh no! So I actually, so I did not take a gap year. I went straight through, but a lot of my classmates took gap years. One, two. Some people took more than two, and it's a really common, part of people's journeys, into dental school. So for me, I didn't actually take a gap year, but I did graduate in May, so straight through for me.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, being at UCLA, they have very strong like DAT scores there. How did you study for the DAT and how did you feel going through it?
Yeah. So I mean, the DAT for any person that's pre-dental, it's quite a challenge for pretty much everyone that has done it. And I'd say it can be a very nerve-wracking experience. Having to study for that exam. And I think for me, it was a journey because I was trying to figure out, what's the best thing to do, what's the best way to study. Should I use this resource or that resource? And I think definitely like do your research, do adequate research before you purchase different kind of materials. I think I made that mistake a couple times and have bought something that I didn't really use that much later on. And so you kind of got to do your research and gauge on what's best for you in your situation. That's kind of like my general advice. But then also, just in addition to that, I feel like oftentimes we kind of overstress ourselves about this. And there's a couple of things that students do during this time. Like one thing that people do sometimes is they'll go on this website called SDN,
Oh yeah.
Student Doctor Network. You're probably familiar with it. A lot of students are. And, there can be very useful information on that website, but there also can be very bad information and a lot of things that can just discourage you, especially if you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else, and what their results are. And, that really can just become more of a hindrance, over time than a help. So regulate how often you're on there and really just focus on your studying and focus on your DAT attempt and put your best foot forward. I mean, you'll do as good as you can if you do that. So yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, you already gave so much great advice. Do you have any like number one tip for the pre-dents out there?
My number one tip, I would say for DAT studying, I definitely would say, have a balance. I think that, of course, you're going to have to be studying all these hours and, who knows how long. But I think also you need to create some time, make time for yourself. And also, like during that time, it's okay to be a little selfish, like for your in the, you know, to prioritize your well-being. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like it's so easy to disregard that and feel like maybe you're neglecting your friends or you're not going out as much as you would have before this. But I mean, it's just temporary, and still do some of those things that you really want to do. But, just have a balance. Don't go to the extremes. I think that can really just mess up somebody's experience with that. So, yeah.
Mhm. Awesome. So you knew pretty early on, like relatively early on, that you wanted to do dentistry. Did you ever show interest in UCLA specifically? Like, reach out to dental students or just faculty there?
So I mean, I kind of did in a way, but I'll say it wasn't like I went and emailed the admissions like I want to attend UCLA School of Dentistry, but I did kind of connect with dental students in a certain way. And one way I'll say is I had applied to and been accepted to a program. It's called SHPEP or SHPEP, which stands for the Summer Health Professions Education Program. And so basically this program, they have, I think, 13, maybe 15 sites now. I think they added a couple more. And so there's different sites around the country. And basically there's one at Howard where I went to undergrad at, UCLA, Columbia, that's a few of them. And so you apply as a freshman or a sophomore. And basically what you can do is if you're pre-med, pre-dent, pre-nursing, you apply as one of those concentrations. And you basically have all these very, very enriching experiences that essentially kind of prepare you, in a professional and academic sense, for dental school later on. And so I had all these amazing experiences in that program. It was 6 weeks. And in that time, I was able to meet, some faculty at UCLA. I was able to meet some students too. And honestly, yeah, it was just an amazing time. So, yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. So can you tell me a little bit about your interview process? Because you were the class that probably had to do it all online, right?
Oh yeah. So all the interviews, I think I had one interview in person, but the majority of my interviews were all administered online. And so it was a really just an unprecedented time for everyone and for any dental school application like cycle. And so they were trying to navigate that the best they could. But yeah, it was all online. I mean, it was very interesting. I think you got used to it. A lot of schools put a lot of effort in to try to get you to have as good of an interview day experience as they could. But I want to say, with UCLA's interview, it was pretty straightforward. We had like a little introduction, and I think we did like an essay, and then we had two one-on-one interviews with two different faculty members. And honestly, it was easy going. It wasn't anything to be, I tell students this all the time. It's not something to be intimidated by. It's really just meant for them to get to know you and for you to get to know them, and really just connect with the school. And I try to remind students as well, like, because it's easy to get really nervous, it's a big day, big time for anyone. And so a lot of students feel that they go into the interview feeling like they have to prove something to the admissions. And honestly, you don't. You're there because they want you to be there. They invited you there. And so I try to, remind students that they want you there and that's why you're here. So yeah, it was pretty good, honestly.
That's very well said. So after your interview, did you know UCLA was the one for you after the interview? Because a lot of the people that we interview here, they say, yeah, after I interviewed with my school, I was like, that's the one for me. So did you have that same experience?
So for me, it was honestly, I think for me, my experience versus my classmates is a bit different because I was kind of already exposed to UCLA pretty early when I did that program as a sophomore. And so, fortunately for me, I already I was a little sold already. But, the interview was great. And I think the interview did, give me even some more information than I maybe had not known. And I think that really was like the icing on the cake right there for me. And I said, yeah, I'm going to UCLA if I get accepted. So. Yeah.
Okay, so you said you knew already. So what was it about UCLA that was so special to you and like what stood out compared to all the other schools that were out there?
Good question. Well, I'm gonna say, well, before I get into like my kind of like a deeper reason, just like on the surface, UCLA is pass fail, and I'm going to say that is something that really makes a lot of students gravitate towards that school. And I think out of all the dental schools, I want to say there are 5 pass fail schools. And so I think they are UCLA, UCSF, Harvard is one. I want to say Columbia, and I want to say UConn, I think. So that's 5. And so the thing about this is like, of course you can go to a school with grades as well, and the experience will be just fine. But I think personally, at UCLA, we have less of a competitive environment because we don't have class rank. You see, so you're not stressed out because of where you stand with your class, but in fact, your entire class will stand together. You see what I'm saying? And like actually be in a more collaborative environment. And I feel like that's a lot more conducive, for your learning in your growth as a dental student. And so I really just enjoyed that part.
Well,
Yeah.
so you did say there's like no ranking, right? But UCLA does have the like honors, like pass
Yeah.
fail honors, right? So how does that work? Like, do people compete for the honors, or is
Good
it kind of?
question. It's a good question. Yeah. So, okay. So the honors, the way it works is you can get honors, and, so honors would just, you would get an honors H on your transcript for the class. Now, um, it depends on the course, how many people get honors. And it's kind of, a lot of it's at the professor's discretion. But typically they might give it to like the top 20%, the top 10%. It just depends on that professor and what they decide. But I'll say overall, I mean, when you go to pass fail schools, that is not as large of a focus, even as you would think. That even though that is something that sets yourself apart, it's still very difficult to even obtain honors like consistently. Like, that's really hard. And if you get a few, I mean, that's great. But I'm going to say it's not as big of a deal as even some people might think it is. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right, awesome. So, I mean, you mentioned there was a little bit of a deeper deal.
Yeah, yeah,
Detail
yeah.
that got you interested. What was that?
So okay, so when I came here, a couple of years ago for this program, um, honestly, okay, so when I walked into the school and everything, I felt like I was at home, and once I met the faculty and once I met the students, what I really observed was I really could see that the faculty, they really cared about the students' well-being. It was very, very, very apparent to me. And I thought that was a very important thing to have in a dental school, the one that I attended. And so I saw that and said, wow, I was just kind of blown away by this, because I was almost in shock about it, because I don't know, from what I had heard about dental school and, just how difficult it is, because it's very hard and rigorous. I kind of thought that, they kind of just leave you out, for the sharks, and you kind of got to just fend for yourself and figure it out. And that could be an aspect for many people, but I'll say at UCLA, you do get a very good support system. And I think you get a support system you get a very strong support system from your classmates as well. And so, I mean, I thought that was priceless, and I said, I can't pass that up. So.
That's awesome. So, I mean, now you've gone through a few weeks of school. How has that been, transitioning from a pre-dent to a first year? I mean, you said you have a great support group. So, I mean, I feel like that's, off to a good start already, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely just it just you kind of hit the ground running. Honestly, you kind of just have to be ready for anything. But it's been a very I'd say it's been a very good transition. And I say that mainly because of my classmates. My classmates they're all amazing, phenomenal people. And you kind of work together. You learn that you have each other's backs, and you remind each other, okay, we have to do this by this day, and we do this. And did you remember this form over here, and sign up for this? And we all really just work together. And I think that really, it's a team effort. So as long as you remember that it's a team effort and don't try to do everything on your own, I think you honestly can be very successful at any school.
Oh, fantastic. So, what's the typical day look like for you? Do you guys have any classes online, or are you guys back like fully in person?
Good question. So I remember at first we were all wondering the same thing. Like in the summer, we were thinking, okay, is it all going to be in person? Are we going to, have it all on Zoom, or what's going on? And things were changing a lot, and they were constantly trying to reevaluate how they're going to proceed with the quarter. And so yeah, it seemed like change was like the only constant, actually. So yeah, but pretty much what was decided was that we kind of are in a hybrid form right now. And so we have classes online, right? But then we also, mainly our lectures are online. And then we have anatomy lab in person, and we have anatomy waxing lab in person. So we just have our class split up into two groups. And so one group will meet on Monday and Wednesday, and the other group will meet up on Tuesday and Thursday. And that's kind of how we conduct things at the moment. So yeah, it works pretty well though.
Very cool. So, I mean, it seems like COVID really hasn't affected you guys anymore. I remember like interviewing the last set of people in this series, and they were saying how it was a little bit difficult to get to know their classmates, and they didn't get enough time in the lab. But it seems like for you, like now at UCLA, it's all good, right?
I mean, okay, so as far as us like connecting, I did hear from other like, other people at other schools across the country, because last year was just so, like I said, unprecedented earlier. And so a lot of classes, people that were entering last year, they had difficulties connecting with one another because they were all virtual and everything. So it kind of limited their ability to do that. And, we were not sure how this year was going to play out. And I was aware of that really early. And I personally didn't want us to go through the same thing. And so me and a few other students, we did our best to kind of connect as many of us as we could. And, so we all kind of knew each other, virtually for months before we even came here. And then we even were able to plan some events, not just before our first week of class, but actually before orientation. So we already had a few events where we all got to meet in person and got to know each other. So yeah, we were already connected when we started school, basically. So it was great.
That's awesome. All right. So my last question for you is, in general, if you could go back in time to when like you were a freshman in college and you could tell yourself or give yourself some advice, what would you say to that person?
Okay, good question. Honestly, if I could go back or if I could see myself, years ago and give myself some advice, it'd probably be just don't be so hard on yourself. I feel like oftentimes we're very critical of ourselves, and I can see why we would be, but at the same time, if you're not nice to yourself, who's going to be nice to you? And I think we just kind of get too hard on ourselves, put too much pressure on ourselves. And I would just tell myself to, don't be so hard on yourself. It's going to work out. What's meant for you will be for you. And just another piece of advice I would give myself would just be, if a door closes or you say like you face rejection, don't see it as rejection, but see it more like redirection, because you might get led to a better opportunity. And so that's what I would tell myself.
Ooh, those are some excellent words of wisdom. Amour, thank you so much for your time today. I know I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure our audience is gonna really appreciate this. If anyone in our audience has, extra questions for you, is it possible they can reach out through either like social media or email?
Yes, definitely. So you can reach me on Instagram if you want at Dr. Dr. Period AMXUR. So that's like my name, but the O is an X. So yeah, Dr. Amour, I guess. And then my email is just amourelliot1@gmail.com. So feel free to email me or anything and put the contacts, down below in the description. And thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. We'll definitely put that in the description of this video. So again, Amour, thank you so much. Everyone at home, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when we upload new content, hit the notification bell. If you have any questions for us at FutureDDS, you can always DM us on Instagram @_FutureDDS, and we'll try to reply as soon as possible. And we'll see y'all in the next video. Take care, y'all.